Hello, welcome to Tiffany Teach Tuesday. It's been a while since I have been live with you all discussing anything in regards to anything. But this is a special edition of Tiffany Teach Tuesday, and I'm going to be discussing the election season. This is a very crucial election. And the reason that this election is so important is because we're not just uh, voting in a president, we're voting in judges, Senate seats, Congress seats in some states. And it is imperative that we get out and vote, especially in the African American community. Let's get some voting history going on. So, right after the Civil War, post Civil War, African Americans were in a lot of congressional seats. And then at some point, we were pushed out the election process, not allowed to vote. Jim Crow laws were put into place, and African Americans couldn't vote. They put a lot of stipulations in for them to vote, making them pay to vote. If they couldn't read, they couldn't vote. It was just like a lot of different things that were put in place to keep them from being able to vote. So, with that being said, when I hear especially African Americans say they're not voting, I just think it's crazy because we're talking about less than 100 years ago, we couldn't vote. We couldn't have access to vote. People died, people marched, people walked, people fought for the right to vote. And whether you know who the candidate is that you should vote for, you should just exercise your rights, because if your rights are taken from you, then you can't vote. And what has been undone is hard to redo when his rights are taken away, because it took them years to get the right to vote and freely be able to open the vote. They are now setting polls on fire, flooding them, making it difficult, making long lines, not making enough people. So they're now in 2024 still putting up roadblocks to keep us from voting, and to have individuals to say they're not going to vote because they don't like either candidate. Well, look, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you, when you're voting, think about your situation and what you're going through, and not about who's going to give the most amount of money, but who is going to make you have a livelihood that is sustainable. So, under the administration of the Trump administration, they're the reason that our cost of goods are even higher now. He put a tariff tax in place, which I thought was a good thing. I believe that we should bring jobs and businesses back to America, that we should require companies to pay higher tariff tax. But we can't expect them to pay a higher tariff tax when we don't have manufacturing business in America that can sustain us losing the business from overseas. So you can't put a higher tariff tax in place, but in return, which is causing our costs and goods to go up, but you didn't build any businesses in the U.S. so that we can get businesses back in the U.S. to cover the cost, the goods that are being shipped into America. So a lot of things, there's a process of doing things. And if we don't have the right leadership in place to ensure that things are in the best interest of the massive of people, not just the wealthy, not just the poor, not just the middle class, but the masses of people. And the masses of people are lower middle class and poor. So we have to have a democracy in place that helps those individuals, not cripple them, not enable them, but help them. So I say that to be said, we need to be more vigilant and take more ownership for ourselves of researching and understanding the platform and the stands that the candidate that you're voting for stands on. Not because they gave you something extra, a couple of few dollars, but what policies and procedures and laws are they putting in place that later down the road harms the masses, majority of people? So this election is about our democracy. President Trump, while he was in office, he is the only president that has overturned federal laws that directly affect women and poor people. For those who feel like he gave you an extra $1,000 when the time was hard, $1,000 has been spent and is gone. But what about the things that make you have choices to save your life, to keep you from having racial discrimination brought upon you? Those things that are more important than money. I had to tell a childhood friend of mine, I say, yes, Trump, because when Trump has great policies in deciding how to make the country more profitable in terms of money. But what difference does it make if you have all of this money, but you have no freedom to do the things and live the life that you have grown accustomed to? When your daughters can't decide how they want and if they want and when they want to bring life into this world. When the government the Supreme Court has given the president the right to do anything that he sees fit in his eyes as betterment of the country, to harm people, if he's doing it in the eyes of the country, he says in his eyes that he has immunity. Like, make this make sense, people. You all have to look at more than what the news is telling you, because 2579 and 32 are only going to tell you the message that they want you to hear. You need to do your own research, not on social media alone. Read some books and things that have been written and policies that are in place. Go to the government website and look at the Project 2025 that is going to destroy the education system and free education. Now, for some who think reading is not important, this doesn't address you. But for those who understand knowledge is power. When I was a school counselor, I used to tell my students, they'd be like, oh, Miss Watkins, this stuff in this book, it don't mean nothing. I said, this is the law of the American people. This is U.S. history now, mind you. I said, understand this. If me and you were playing chess and I knew the rules to the game and you didn't, who would win? And they say, you'll win, Miss Watkins. I said, exactly. What's in these books is the rules to the game. And if you don't know how to play the rules to the game, you're going to always lose. So while people think that the president holds the most power, actually, the House seat holds the power. The Congress and the Supreme Court hold more power than the president does. But the president is the reflection of our country. When people look at us as a country and see us as a strong country, they won't see us as a strong country when our president is selling us out to other countries. They don't see us as a strong country when we have individuals who are not doing what's best for the people of their country. In addition, I am tired of you black folks saying Kamala Harris is not black. I don't know how black you can be with a father that's from Jamaica that's black. The mother is Indian, but she still has the darker hue of black folks. She went to HBCU. She pledged a Black Greek sorority. I don't know what you all consider being black. The last time I recall in the laws, it said 1/5 of a black blood make you black. So no matter what you say, how she acted, how she moves, and who she married to, she black in everybody else's eyes but the black folks. Let's stop with this foolery. We have to do better. If we do not come together as a collective, we will never prosper as a race. The only person that's against us is ourselves. They have conditioned us so well that we recondition ourselves. We need to open our eyes and be more vigilant about the things that are important in our community and start building our own communities and start doing our own homework. We keep talking about, oh, they not doing nothing for Black people. Well, what are Black people doing for themselves? What happened to the Black people working together as a collective? We spend more time tearing one another down than building each other up. So if you want to help your community, go and vote. For the judges, when you get stand in front of a judge, call one of your cousins who'd have been to jail and told you that and you saw them fighting a trial that was not fair, and the judge ruled against them and imprisoned somebody who should not have been in prison, and make sure that judge don't get back on the seat. Mark them off the ballots. For your aldermen, your congressmen, your mayors who are not doing things in your community, find somebody that will. Your power lies in your vote. You may not think that is important, but as I told my cousin who once said to me, when has been a democracy for Black folks? I said, when we stop having slavery. But when you don't have the rights that you have now started to take for granted because you assume that it's always been like this and it hasn't, then you will appreciate it, but then it'll be too late. Stop being reactive and be proactive. Go out and vote. If you do nothing else right this year in 2024, on Tuesday, November the 5th, cast a valid vote. Go to your voting polls and vote. Because when I do another live and I tell you, I told you so, don't be looking crazy and mad because things ain't in your favor because you didn't go out and vote. Exercise the rights that you have been granted and use them before you lose them. And that's all I have for you today on my Tiffany Teach Tuesday. I may be back next month. I may not. Just depend on what life looks like after this election. You all be great, and always thank you for tuning in.